Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Terrace Fire Department has had some fire season warnings. Prince Rupert has had surprisingly no overdose deaths so far this year, and an engineer had some espresso machine advice.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Baslett, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. The Terrace Fire Department has some warnings ahead of the upcoming wildfire season. Fire Chief Chad Cooper says that as regional snowpacks are lower than average this season, it's important to plan accordingly.
For the upcoming summer season, Terrace Fire Department is urging residents to, if you're having a backyard cooking fire, that it's in an approved fire ring and it's no bigger than 1 meter by 1 meter, and you have a dedicated water source by. And then it's also good to have some sort of grating on top that controls the sparks and embers from flying around. And also staying tuned to the city's website, because we might have burning restrictions and burn bans in place if the season turns out to be really dry. It was something simple as, say you're having a cigarette outside on your deck, so you just have a metal container with a little bit of water, and you can put your butts in there, and then it doesn't actually get blown away and end up on your grass and start a fire, or in your shrubs. We also recommend that you just general housekeeping around your house on the exterior, so you're removing any dead leaves, kind of moving your wood pile away from your house, so that if it does catch fire, it's not going directly flame impingement on your house. So.
After speculation that lasted for a span of several months, Canfor recently released a statement saying that their plans to replace their closed sawmill in Houston are being scrapped. It was believed that Canfor would not only replace their old sawmill, but also do it on the property where the old one was located. The Houston and District Chamber of Commerce has since put out a statement of their own, asking the provincial government to reinstate the appurtenancy clause. This clause dictates that timber must be processed in the community where it was harvested, but it hasn't been in effect in BC since 2003. According to some new numbers, the city of Prince Rupert has been maybe the only place somewhat spared of the lethal consequences of the overdose crisis so far this year. The BC Coroner's Office revealed that in 2024, Prince Rupert has not had a recorded unregulated drug death to this point, after reporting only 5 such deaths in 2022. Their death rate was at 33.6 deaths per 100,000 people, the lowest in the entire Northern Health region last year, and a far cry from other places like Terrace. Terrace suffered a much higher number of those drug deaths with 22, and their death rate in 2023 for comparison was 93.9 per 100,000, the second largest in all of BC. But the current rate in the whole province is 40 per 100,000, a dip from 45.7 in 2023. It was a particularly special first Mother's Day this past weekend for a Courtenay woman whose journey to motherhood came with twists and turns. But despite battling a complex health issue, she ended up safely delivering twins with the help of a special program out of St. Paul's Hospital. CTV's Michelle Bernoro has the story.
So this is Charlie, and this guy going a little bit nuts is Arthur.
At about 14 weeks old, these little ones are double trouble for mom, but she's not complaining.
Figure out how to make a bottle while you're holding 2 babies, while you're dealing with the dog.
39-year-old Sarah Dixon, a first-time mom, has a complex heart condition known as CPVT, which makes having children riskier.
Sarah has an inherited arrhythmia. So what that means is it's a genetic condition in which the electrical system of the heart is impacted. And that particular condition can lead to life-threatening arrhythmias.
Dixon was referred to a special program at St. Paul's Hospital, the only one of its kind in BC.
We see about 400 to 500 women a year with cardiac disease that are thinking about pregnancy or are pregnant. Essentially, she was at risk of having a cardiac event. But in this particular case, it's one of those scenarios where when you have the event, it is extraordinarily high risk.
The risk with pregnancy wasn't really in the pregnancy itself. It was more the stress of the delivery. and it's something that's triggered by adrenaline. So beta blockers suppress that.
Because of her condition, she was being closely monitored. Then a routine ultrasound revealed one of the babies had a potentially serious issue. Dixon was sent to St. Paul's immediately, and she delivered her baby boys by C-section at 33 weeks. Both boys were less than 4 pounds and spent their first weeks in ICU.
It was very moving to me to have so much care for these tiny little guys, and to know that there were so many people who were just like, experts in the area.
Really, it's a great joy to be able to see them through their pregnancy, and do well from a heart perspective.
Mom and babies are doing exceptionally well. The boys getting bigger each week and bringing so much joy to their parents.
They smile and giggle. It's like you'll do anything for them.
Making the long nights and busy days all worth it. Michelle Bernoro, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up next, several BC districts are cutting an education program. Welcome back. It looks like Surrey isn't the only district to cut the Strong Start early education program. Coquitlam has axed 3 of its Strong Start locations due to a lack of funding, and parents are doing what they can to try and save them. CTV's Yasmin Gandam has more.
Chantel Petty's daughter has been attending Strong Start since she was 6 months old.
She had social issues going through COVID, but coming out of COVID, she is like, I don't know how to say it. She's as confident.
Now the location she attends at Coquitlam River will be closing its doors at the end of the school year.
Our children really need to have the ability to be recognized if they're in a vulnerable situation or they need the extra help in their world.
Coquitlam River is one of 3 locations closing out of 10, along with Central and Meadowbrook Elementary. But Petty says despite the district's claims about a lack of physical space, there is plenty of room for the programs to continue.
So the space is going to be left vacant in the afternoons.
The Surrey School District has also made cuts to Strong Start, with 2 programs being axed, but the board was able to save 23 out of the 25, at least for now.
I understand there hasn't been cuts to funding, but funding has not increased for Strong Start since 2013. So what can you say and how you're going to ensure that these programs keep running in the long term?
Yeah. So as I said, we have increased operating funding since we formed the government, and we'll keep on looking at what are the needs of the school districts. I'm very happy that the school Strong Start programs are continuing in Surrey.
But districts like Burnaby and Richmond are not planning to cut any Strong Start programs. There are 2,200 children registered in Burnaby and 993 in Richmond. Parents like Petty feel they are being left behind.
We really need to have our early education set in place for everybody, not just for those that can afford it.
She and other parents are planning to rally outside the Coquitlam School Board office on Thursday. She hopes more money can be allocated to save the vital program. Yasmin Gandam, CTV News, Coquitlam.
A Vancouver Island man is sharing a cautionary tale after he says he was scammed by a fake booking on a popular travel site. He thought he was booking a rental property in Whistler, but when he showed up, someone was living there, and now he's trying to get his money back. As CTV's Yvonne Raymond shows us, he's not alone.
When Edwin Mostard went to book a celebratory group trip skiing in Whistler, he used a well-known travel site and found a spot that seemed right.
It was an actual address, right? So I checked that on Google Street View. Also, the price was right in the range where you would expect it to be.
He clicked to book. In a moment, he now regrets.
It says all payments are arranged by the property. So I said, okay, that gave me the confidence that I could pay directly with the company, that property. The property must have been vetted.
Edwin says he shifted from Booking.com and wired €3,700 or $5,500 to a property owner he was told lived in Spain. Before losing contact days ahead of the trip, he says they were told the concierge managing the property was in an accident and couldn't let them in.
I called Booking.com directly. I said, well, this is not right. something's wrong, we don't have communication, I don't trust this, I'd like to cancel, and I'd like you guys to rebook me into a new property. They said, well, we can't do that. You have to physically go there to the house, knock on the door basically, and if they don't open, then we'll arrange something else for you.
The group decided to go, only to find someone living inside. A travel expert warns people should never move communication away from the booking platform or they lose many protections.
Never ever send the money independently. You should never have that kind of an arrangement with someone. It should always be done through the booking platform.
Booking.com hasn't responded to our request.
When you have the feeling, okay, this raises a few flags, that's the moment when you should stop and arrange something else.
Yvonne Raymond, CTV News, Souk.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast will likely see rain and a low of 8 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area should have a chance of showers at a low at 6 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is supposed to be partly cloudy, while their low is at 3 degrees. On the North Coast, the upcoming week will consist of the occasional bit of sun and all rain and clouds otherwise, plus a high going from 12 to 10 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their next week will be similar, a little sun, but rain and clouds otherwise, while the high shifts from 9 to 16 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the week for them will see a few more mixed sunny and cloudy days, but still some rain too, at a high bouncing from 12 to 17 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is utility work, bridge maintenance, road sweeping, construction work, and paving operations. Highway 35 has some shoulder maintenance. Highway 37 has road maintenance work and frost heaves. Highway 37A has road maintenance work too, some shoulder maintenance on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has muddy sections and frost heaves. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, pro-Palestine University protests are escalating to the point of arrest. Welcome back. Shocking recent numbers from Stats Canada paint a much stronger picture of the economy than expected last month. CTV's Jeremy Charon explains.
It's a big boost that came as a surprise for many.
It's a little bit crude, but it made me think of the Eagles song, Hotel California, you just can't kill the beast.
An April jobs report that shows a strengthening economy, reporting the largest job gains in over a year, adding 5 times what was expected.
Everybody obviously wants to have a job, and it's great the employment's up, but the Bank of Canada, with the Government of Canada, is trying to reattain this 2% inflation target, and you do have to cool the economy to a certain extent.
90,000 new jobs were added in April, but unemployment held at 6.1%. Experts say there's more to the numbers than meets the eye.
When Canada's population is growing like it is now, it takes a ton of jobs for just the job market to keep pace with that size of the labor force. And so that was kind of the story of what we saw in April.
Still, it's expected the positive job data could prompt the Bank of Canada to hold off on cutting rates from their current 23-year high of 5%.
It looks very much like a toss-up. I think market pricing is pretty much about 50-50. We're still expecting a June rate cut, but I mean, let's be honest, it very easily could be pushed out to July. And so I think if anything, this employment report maybe gives the Bank of Canada a little bit of hesitancy.
Wage growth slowed in April, a metric the bank watches closely for its effect on inflation, which remains above the target of 2%. But the question is whether it's slowed enough to outweigh those strong labor force gains.
And of course, only the Bank of Canada gets to make that decision. The highly anticipated next rate announcement is scheduled for June 5th. Jeremy Sharon, CTV News, Ottawa.
Police have made 5 arrests following a pro-Palestinian encampment protest at the University of Calgary. Officers had to physically remove several demonstrators, but despite the heated response, many of them returned and say they're not going anywhere. CTV's Mark Villani reports.
Officers move in swiftly. They're at the ready with batons and shields, dismantling tents set up on the University of Calgary's main campus. It began with ample warnings.
And we are instructing you to leave.
But some protesters refused.
We did our best to maintain de-escalation, which ironically seems to be the CPS's role.
Calgary police say the situation got heated. Bottles and other projectiles were thrown at officers. Police responded with pepper balls and firing other loud irritants. They then forcibly removed the trespassers.
There was an escalation at that point because the behavior of the suspects will dictate the reaction of the officers as it did there, and that's how it works.
The University of Calgary's president says the act of camping infringes on trespassing bylaws. I want to underline that as community members, you have the right to protest. But as outlined in our campus statement on free expression, that right is subject to limitations imposed by law, as well as policies and procedures related to the university's functioning. And by that definition, experts say lawful action was taken on private property.
You can then have the police and others forcibly remove you. The question then becomes amount of force.
Police made 5 arrests. Ewan Thompson was amongst those handcuffed, suffering cuts to his face in the process.
The level of brutality used in this case was completely unnecessary, and it felt much more like a show of force.
Some of my friends, their tents were completely ripped out of the ground, and we weren't even allowed to take our belongings that were in the tent.
But Alberta's premier says it was justified and that her government will provide its support when needed.
If it accelerates and escalates out of control and devolves into hate speech, then I would say that the universities have to deal with that swiftly.
Although there may be competition for the most popular drink, coffee is still the most consumed beverage worldwide. And if you've ever had a tough time figuring out an espresso machine, you're not alone. An Ontario engineer has been there and has got you covered. CTV's Spencer Turcott explains what's brewing in Guelph.
An absolutely overkill setup for home, but I'm a very lucky person.
Don't be fooled. This isn't an upscale coffee shop.
Come down the dark hallway, we enter into the studio.
It's inside Matt Stiver's Guelph apartment, and if you can't tell, he's a coffee connoisseur.
Coffee is as nuanced as wine, if not more nuanced in the processing methods, the origins.
The 29-year-old has his hands full.
I often joke that I work 9 to 5 as an engineer and then 5 to 9 as a content creator, and that's not much of a joke.
He started a YouTube channel called Lifestyle Lab, and the concept is simple.
I try to help people essentially make the correct buying decisions when venturing into the deep and scary ocean that is at-home coffee.
His passion began as a student at the University of Guelph when he started drinking coffee.
I bought my first espresso machine knowing nothing about it, and there was no one to teach me about it.
Stuck with the complicated contraption, knowing others were in the same boat, he decided to fill the gaps.
That's kind of part of the value of the internet, is you can compare in a really easy way.
His channel has grown in many ways, moving from the living room of his apartment to a full-blown studio in one of the bedrooms.
So this is the new Flare Neo Flex.
And his audience has grown with it. Over 85,000 subscribers and nearly 23 million video views. Now big brands are sending him products to review, and he's making money doing it.
Probably one of the largest accomplishments in my life.
One day he may have to choose between his current career and his coffee content, but for now, he feels there's space for both, staying confident and caffeinated. Spencer Turcott, CTV News, Guelph.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets before closure. The Canadian dollar is down 7/100ths of a cent. The price of gold is down $30.60. Oil is up 88 cents. Natural gas is up 7 cents. Aluminum is down $32. In Toronto, the TSX is down 58.91 points. The Venture Index is down 1.29. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 72.39 and the Nasdaq is up 34.23. Still ahead, a woman is claiming to be portrayed unfairly in a new Netflix series. Welcome back. Now 2 words from the real-life woman who says she was portrayed in the hit Netflix series Baby Reindeer. Speaking about her portrayal as a stalker, she says it's all lies and is planning on suing the streaming giant. ABC's Eva Pilgrim has her story.
Honestly, where were you last night? You need to tell me if you're not working.
The woman who says she inspired the hit Netflix show Baby Reindeer about a man and his female stalker now publicly coming forward.
The internet sleuths tracked me down and hounded me and gave me death threats, so it wasn't really a choice. I was forced into this situation.
The series creator and star Richard Gadd says the show is based on his experience with a woman who sent him more than 41,000 emails, left 350 hours of voicemails, and mailed more than 100 pages of letters over several years. Millions enthralled by the story, leading to a social media frenzy to find the real-life inspiration for the characters.
People online are convinced that this is the real Martha Scott.
Her name is Fiona Harvey.
Not y'all actually finding out who Martha was.
Fiona Harvey telling Piers Morgan the experience of the show has been horrendous.
It's taken over enough of my life. I find it quite obscene.
She says she's upset with the depiction of the character she believes she inspired, Martha.
Don't you dare!
Now she's telling her side of the story.
It's a work of fiction. There are 2 true facts in that. His name is Richard Gadd, and he worked as a jobbing barman on benefits in the Holy Arms, and we met 2 or 3 times.
Harvey denying the claims made about the alleged stalker's behavior, now saying she's planning to sue and hopes the truth will come out.
I should never have gone in that bar.
Do you wish you never had?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Gadd previously discouraging people from trying to track down the real people behind the characters, writing on social media, please don't speculate on who any of the real-life people could be. That's not the point of our show.
Premier David Eby is set to welcome a South Korean delegation marking the first official visit of a governor from BC's sister province in that country. An advisory from BC's Intergovernmental Relations Secretariat says Ki Young-ki Province Governor Kim Dong-young is making his first official visit to BC. The advisory says Eby and Kim will discuss topics such as trade and economic cooperation during the meeting in Victoria. The visit will also include the laying of a wreath at the cenotaph at the BC legislature to commemorate Korean War veterans. The BC government has recently come to announce some regulation changes for hunting in an effort to both manage wildlife as well as respect First Nations. It was said that the changes affect hunting for animals like moose, caribou, elk, bighorn sheep, thinhorn sheep, mountain goats, white-tailed deer, and mule deer. Some of the changes will mean new hunting opportunities in other parts of the province, while changing open hunting season for caribou in both Skeena and Amaneka to limited entry. The government last stated that the general open season for areas that are remote without motorized access will continue. That's all of our news for now from everyone here at CFTK-TV News. I'm Cale Maslin, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.